Welcome to Unfiltered Hummingbird. I am your host, Camelia. Hey, we're going to unpack some questions, interview some guests, have a little fun together. Come on, let's get to it. All right, today we're going to be talking about distractions and how distractions do cause procrastination. Ever thought about that? What is distracting you? Well, let's first start off with distraction. What distraction is. So according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, a distraction is something or an object that diverts or distracts your attention. Just like I'm talking to you now, if a bird flew through the room, it would be a distraction, right? It would cause everything to come to a halt. Have you ever been, working or doing your own thing, and then your child just burst into the room or come into the room talking? They don't realize or they even bothered of what you're doing. Say you're cooking and they come in and say, "Hey mom, dad, can you come look at this or check this out?" A distraction, because what you're going to do is you're going to stop and you're going to look at whatever they're showing you, and you're going to stop doing whatever you were doing. And by the time you're done with me, I'm usually saying, okay, so what was I doing now? So I have to refocus and get back to what I'm doing. That's what a distraction is. It kind of diverts your attention from what you were actually doing. Okay? And that happens all the time. Let's take social media. While you're listening to this podcast, you probably got 5, 20, 30 notifications from Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is, email, Gmail, whatever you get notifications for. You probably constantly get them. And that can be a distraction, because if you're looking for a particular response or a particular notification, you're going to be constantly taking note of whatever that notification is, right? It's a distraction. And some distractions are good, because sometimes in life we get so bogged down and so busy with life that we need some type of distraction, to free our mind, let our minds just kind of detox, so we can kind of take a deep breath. And there are other distractions that will stop us from our vision. They will stop us from doing what our purpose is. So there are 3 categories. You have your visual, you have your manual, and then you have your cognitive distractions. You have your visual distractions, your manual distractions, and your cognitive distractions. So, of course, visual, let's start with the first one. The visual is going to be what you see, like I talked about with those notifications coming down on your phone. Someone coming in for a car cutting into your lane. That's a distraction. That could be either visual or physical. Manual is going to be something like someone coming in asking you a question that's physically in your presence. Cognitive is someone asking you a question. It's something, a manual distraction is mental. Your mental attention is being diverted. Your mind chattering, thoughts, conversations, versus physical, like a billboard. You're driving and you see a billboard, and that's something physical, and also visual distraction. So 3 types of distractions that we got, right? So with those in mind, your visual, your manual, and your cognitive, those are 3 heavy types of distractions that can all divert your attention from your purpose of what you're called to do, right? So one time several times I have walked from the kitchen to my bedroom on my way to go get something out of my bedroom. And by the time I got to my bedroom, I'm thinking, now what was I coming in here to do? Forgot. And then I get distracted by something that's going on in my bedroom. I'm picking up things in my bedroom and I leave. And then when I leave and go back to the kitchen, I realize, oh, I know what I was going into the bedroom to go get. Has that ever happened to anybody? Oh my gosh. At first I was thinking, oh, it's age or whatever, but I'm going to count it out to what we're talking about as a distraction because our minds and our thoughts, they're consistently going, aren't they? I mean, let me just talk as a woman. Woman, we are always thinking of different scenarios, things that we have to do, what hat we need to pull on, or sometimes we're just scrolling through our phone. You know what's another distraction? Is our watching other people watching. Yes, the mindless scrolls when you're looking at other people's lives on our beautiful social media, right? It's a distraction. You could get into the scroll hole where you're just scrolling mindlessly. Sometimes it's mindlessly, and other times there's some very good, valuable information that you can gather and glean on social media. So I always say social media is good for what it's good for. So what you learn, good for you. It's like, chewing up the meat and spitting the bones out. So what you don't need, you don't need. But that can also be a distraction. So let me help you. When we're talking about procrastination and how distractions directly impact or cause you to procrastinate, I want you to think about those three main distractions. Remember, visual, manual, and cognitive. Let me give you some tips on how to minimize distractions because you won't be able to get rid of all of them. Let's face it, you won't. There's so many that are going on. You won't be able to get rid of all of them. However, here's some things that I have come up with that will help you. So, for one, distractions are sometimes distractions are just because tasks, the things that we're doing are mundane, routine, same old, same old. And sometimes you need that distraction to take a mental break, to get away from it, to get a fresh perspective. And those are good. But then there's other times that distractions come and they can cause us to feel anxiety or feel or have this fear of being criticized. So we become distracted and we that distraction causes us to procrastinate from doing the one thing we want to do because the one thing we want to do, that's where that distraction of thought is making us think that, oh, wait a minute, what if they don't like it? What if it's not perfect? I've said this, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to do it. And if it's not perfect, which it probably won't be the first time, you get an opportunity to do it again. So keep practicing. It doesn't have to be perfect to do it the first time, but just do it, right? Okay. So I also wanted you to think about, like, you know how sometimes we say that we multitask and that's supposed to be a talent? Oh, it's no such thing as multitasking because if you're multitasking, several different tasks are getting your attention. Not one thing is getting 100% of your attention. That will get you 100% focus in order to do it efficiently and correctly without any mistakes. So I want to banish that myth of procrastination thinking. I mean, not procrastination, but banish that myth of multitasking. Uh, instead of multitasking and doing several things at one time, create little lists. Create a list a to-do list that has tasks that have assigned priorities to them. Task one, that's my high priority. That's my red flag. I need to do that first. And that has a deadline of 2 hours. Task two, that has a deadline of by 5 o'clock today. See, so each create a to-do list and assign priorities and work off that to-do list instead of multitasking and trying to do all of those things. Because when you try to do all those things at one time, you're going to miss a step, right? You're going to miss something. So break it down in a to-do list and assign a priority to each one. Okay. What about clutter? Clutter is a distraction. Some people would say, "Oh, I know where everything is, and I work better under all this pressure." Ah, I'll probably challenge that. You mean to tell me you could come sit in a messy room and be okay? Eh, Sometimes, if you have no choice, but try this. Try coming in a messy room and cleaning it up, stacking it up, whatever, making it look neat, cleaning out the trash that doesn't need to be there, and then sit. You will be a lot more productive than what you think. I want you to try it. So, clear out the clutter. Another thing is our cell phones. Use hand free when you're driving, of course. And then while you're working, turn your notifications off. Oh my gosh, what? Turn your notifications off or turn that phone over to where you do not see the notifications. Let's try checking our emails 4 times a day. 4 times a day, not every hour. How many times do you hit the screen on your phone checking your emails? Be honest. How many? 10, 11, 12? How many times do you do it? Let's try to reduce that to 4 times a day you check your email. Turn your notifications off. Or if that's too drastic and you're not ready to do that, turn that phone over so you do not see those notifications, right? Okay. Now, also, one thing is attending unnecessary meetings. Sometimes we do not need to be in all the meetings that we're in, right? If there's not an objective for us to be there, bow out nicely. Always ask whoever's organizing that meeting, say, "Hey, do you need my input? Am I needed on this meeting? If not, we could meet up another time." Sometimes we just get caught up in this day filled of meetings and you don't get any work done, or it takes longer to get your work done because you've had meeting and then you got to recap your meeting and then you got to recap your action steps from the meeting. Try to reduce those when possible. Okay. Another thing is to I social media scroll. Assign a time limit. I have a time limit. Have a time limit of how long you're going to be on social media. Sometimes social media is a great debrief for me. I could just take my break or after work, just scroll through and see what's happening with my family. And I'll give myself 30 minutes and then I'm like, okay, that's enough. Gotta go do real stuff. So give yourself a time limit. Don't get caught up in this mindless scroll where you are on that phone scrolling and scrolling and scrolling for hours. And you could say, "Oh, I'm just going to be on that 30 minutes." And you look up and you've been scrolling for 2 hours. Not possible? Yes, it is. Ask your family members who have watched you scroll while you sat there and just da, 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 da. Put a time limit. And if you don't think that you're scrolling for hours, time yourself and find out. It will probably surprise you. Okay, so those are some distraction tips to minimize those distractions. So when you're talking about distractions and how they impact or cause you to procrastinate from doing your goal, be mindful of your goal. What do you have in front of you that always reminds you of your purpose? I have a vision board that's up in my room. I look at it, I see it every single day. Every single day, sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day. But every day I look at that vision board and I'm reminded of the things that I would love to see happen in my life and that I'm working toward in my life. So that's something that I'm constantly reminded of. And then also when I get up in the morning, my first thing is prayer and thanking God for this day and wisdom for today. So what do you have that's reminding you of the things that you want to do, the things that you are called to do? Might be starting out with a to-do list. Start out with a to-do list. That's great. That's wonderful. That's what you want to do. but have a priority assigned on that to-do list so that you're mindful that you just don't have a list of things to do and then you try to accomplish those things within half a day. Allow yourself some grace. Be good to yourself. Allow yourself the grace and the time needed to efficiently do each task. And don't get overwhelmed or flustered because you have so many tasks lined up. Take it one task at a time. One task at a time. Make a commitment that I'm just going to refuse to be distracted. Sometimes you're going to have a coworker that comes up and starts talking to you about what's going on in the office, and it's like a trash dump, right? All of a sudden they come and they just boom, throw all this trash and all of this information, and some is good information, some is bad information, but they dump it all on you, and then they leave and you're left with all of that. What do you do with all of it? You go throw it out. That means that you have to sometimes, that's a good distraction where you say, okay, I'm not going to take in all of that. I'm just going to refocus on what I have to do. And many times you will have to take a deep breath and refocus on what you're supposed to be doing, not what somebody else is supposed to be doing. That's one of the biggest ones. When we're always thinking about what somebody else is doing, we're watching their life instead of watching our own life. Make our life a priority. Watch your own life. Be responsible for your life, not someone else's life. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one that has to respond to your choices in your life. Not someone else's, not your husband, not your partner, not your children, your grandchildren. Only you. You are responsible for your choices and what caused you to make your choices. So minimize the distractions so you do not procrastinate on the one thing that you want to get done this year, in this moment. Don't procrastinate. You can do it. All right, that's all we have for today. Join me next time on Unfiltered Hummingbird. I am your host, Camellia. Until then, have a blessed day.